Well, good morning and welcome. Bill Martinez here. Good to have you with us. We got Jason Sullivan back with us, contributor at large for the Gateway Pundit, founder and publisher of Unleash.news, and founder of ResultsIncorporated.com, and lead investigator specializing in open source intelligence and forensic investigations for Peter Tickton, President Trump's lead Florida attorney. Jason, welcome back. Good to have you with us.
Welcome. Great to see you. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, we got a lot to catch up on. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard really gave us a bucket load the end of last week with the reveal that the Russian collusion and the depths to which it went. Not a big surprise here. I think we've kind of reported in and around it, but this has been the first time that we can go into the Oval Office and see that Barack Obama was the orchestrator of said delusion.
Yeah, delusion's a good word for it. Collusion, delusion. No, Obama has definitely always been the one pulling the strings behind a lot of this. Now, Obama has handlers as well, if you can imagine. Of course, he's not the king sitting behind the throne, but he's definitely pulling levers. And
Mhm.
this goes way back. I think we started to touch on this briefly. If we really want to trace this back, it goes all the way back. I mean, you can at least trace it back to 2014 in Ukraine when the Obama administration helped to orchestrate a coup in
Mhm.
Ukraine to get rid of a duly elected president, Viktor Yanukovych, along with Victoria Nuland with the State Department going over there and along with people like John McCain to
Yes.
encourage people on their soil to overthrow their own government. And that's exactly what we orchestrated. The Obama administration orchestrated. Hillary Clinton had her hands in that as well, and that was to tee up putting in a puppet, uh, uh, that would be pro-U.S., pro-EU, and pro-proxy war. So you
Mhm.
had Poroshenko was installed by the Obama administration, and then he would be pro-proxy war, which is where the never-ending money laundering schemes come from.
I,
So
I was going to say, at the base of all this is, can you say money laundering?
absolutely, can you say practically infinite money laundering? That's why
Mhm.
endless wars. So bottom line is this whole stage was set. I mean, think about it, a big chessboard. That was the center square. If you play chess, they say he or she who controls the center square controls the game.
Mhm.
Center square in endless wars right now is Ukraine. Are on the front
Yes.
lines and the front doorstep of Russia. So they would love nothing more than to break Russia up into another 13 more Ukraines. And it's
Mhm.
an evergreen field of never-ending money laundering schemes. Okay.
Right. And conflict.
And conflict, of course.
Yeah.
So here's the where that story, changes radically. President Trump wins in
Yeah.
2016. So
Surprise.
so the big surprise,
Yeah.
okay? So they teed this whole thing up to have this never-ending war in Ukraine, and then Hillary's slated to become the next president. She stepped down as Secretary of State. She's getting ready. She's getting all ready to become the president of the United States. She's going to preside over this never-ending war over in Ukraine. Russia bad, remember? Okay.
Mhm.
And then in comes President Trump, parachutes into the situation, steals and wins the election, not by stealing, but obviously,
Yeah.
stole the hearts of Americans
Right.
and by speaking their language and standing up for them and speaking up for the forgotten American and the forgotten voices. And it resonated with the country. And he won by big surprise. So the bottom line is he interrupted their entire plan here. So
Mhm.
all of their plans for this never-ending war in Russia and Ukraine went into free fall. They didn't know what
Right.
to do. So, of course, what did they try to do? They've got to get rid of Trump. First off, they tried to get rid of him, when before he became the nominee. So they started with the Russia stuff, okay? Because
Right.
they realized this guy's going to win. He's going to beat poor low energy Jeb Bush badly,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah.
And
18 other candidates on the
18 other.
stage there. Remember that, Jason?
Oh, I definitely remember because
Yeah.
that's the day that he was the only one that raised his hand because he was the only one that uses his brain. That day when they asked, "Is there anybody here that wouldn't automatically fall in line with the nominee once the nominee is selected?" Regardless, he's like, "No. I mean, what if they cheated? Why would I
Right.
fall in line with that, right?" So
Exactly.
that very moment where he was on that stage, that was the first debate, and that was history for me at least, and I think
Mhm.
many other people when they saw him do that. That's how I knew we had an
Mhm.
entrepreneur here that was smart, that could think on his feet, and an entrepreneur is gonna trim the fat, and that's exactly
Right.
what we needed in this country. So he gets in there and disrupts their whole plans. Then he wins the presidency, and so they had to double down on trying to frame him for Russia, Russia, Russia. Okay, the reason Russia has to be the boogeyman is because they're trying to go to war with Russia. Okay, so they're trying to say that Trump is colluding with the Russians. Okay, that he colluded with the Russians to steal the election in 2016 when it was the opposite. These people are the ones stealing the elections, and they try to impeach him. They fail miserably in that. And then
Mhm.
eventually they have to revert to stealing the election in 2020, which is exactly
Right.
what they did. Of course. I mean, look at the man's um, rallies across the nation.
Oh,
Okay.
no question. By comparison, I mean,
20,000.
Biden was lucky to get 12 cars in circles at an event, and uh, whenever he did a campaign. So yes, it was. You talk about low energy. I mean, he redefined low energy and made Jeb Bush look like he was the ever ready bunny, battery bunny. But no, it was absurd. But getting back to what happened with. With Russia, keep in mind that leading into that election, Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, was kissing Russia's back end. Remember, she went in with the reset button with the misspelling of the Russian word and everything like that. She was just kowtowing to them. Barack Obama's caught on a hot mic saying, "Hey, tell Vladimir that after the election, we're going to be able to do a lot better for him."
Have
And
more freedom, right? Yeah.
right, exactly.
Yes.
So the odds were, and the look and understanding was, is that if the Russians were going to be for anybody, they were going to be for Hillary because they felt like they owned her. They knew the game. They knew the Clintons' game. And it was all about money and control. And Vladimir Putin, he's not stupid. So he knows how to work that game. So why would he support Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton? Doesn't
Well,
make sense.
he doesn't want endless wars either. I mean, obviously, it's just like the Cuban Missile Crisis. We didn't want Russia on our back door
You're right.
in Cuba. This is no different. Now
Mm,
we, NATO, and the United States sits at the head of the table for NATO, is at their front doorstep. So it's
right.
really no different. I mean, we're a threat to them, and especially when we have long-range missiles that are being placed there, which have been ATACMS have been placed there, and they've been fired deep in the Russian territory, which was a game
Hmm.
changer. And Putin said, if that happens, then I know that Ukraine's not doing it on their own because they need assistance from satellites and GPS and everything else, which they don't have.
Exactly.
And
Mm,
that means that now we are in a war with NATO.
right.
That's a game change, and that's where we've become. I thank God that President Trump was able to be too big to rig in 2020, and the American people showed up for him to be too big to rig. That's the only reason.
2024.
2024. That's the only reason that
Right.
we won. Thank you. The only reason that we won, of course, is because we were too big to rig, because they
Mhm.
did attempt to steal it again. And
Right.
that's all coming out. We've got a lot of people. I'm working on a lot of cases myself.
I was going to ask you about that. I know that you've been looking into that because that's been my call is that we need a special prosecutor on 2020. What the heck happened? Forget about the Jan 6 committee. That was total phoniness, and it was a waste of the people's money. Millions of dollars that we put into the January 6th committee to get that kind of report that we got. We might as well just it's
It was
like
all
another
it was
warning.
all it was all theater, of course, and
Yeah, of course.
it was all teed up to try to ruin Trump so that he couldn't run again. That's what
Right.
January 6th was about. That was the nail in the coffin to try to frame him for attempting to overthrow his own government. He was
Mhm.
he was the governor. He was in charge. He was trying to overthrow his own government.
Right.
So, the bottom line is you know, election fraud took place. There's no question about it. The Gateway pundit actually um, did a wonderful job on helping expose a lot of this true election fraud.
Mhm.
And it wasn't necessarily rocket science, a lot of it. It was really simple. It was called voter outreach, okay, that they had. There was a group called GBI Strategies. And again, I encourage everybody to go to the Gateway Pundit and take a good look at this because more of
Mhm.
this, I believe, will come out. I have a nagging suspicion of that, I'll just say. And
Well, the truth always finds a way to get out, Jason.
always finds a way, right?
Yeah.
The truth will find the day of light. And they can't keep the truth, buried forever. It always comes back out, just like all this stuff is coming out with Russiagate and, Crossfire
Hmm.
Hurricane and all Obama pulling the levers. It's all going to come out. So, you had you had a fraudulent voter registration operation that was taking place in, I think, roughly 27 states. 27 states. So
27.
this group, GBI Strategies, was being paid millions of dollars by the DNC and also from the Biden for president campaign itself. Millions of dollars. Go check it out. FEC filings. It's all available, readily available for you. And again, go back to the Gateway Pundit, and you'll see multiple stories on this. But they would go to the poorest neighborhoods where people are less likely to show up and vote. That's part of the strategy. That's why they
Mhm.
call them GBI strategies. Okay.
Yeah.
So they go in to the poorest neighborhoods where people are less likely to vote in the swing states and more specifically in swing counties where they can tip. They want to be within striking range. You don't want to go after counties that'll be so, so difficult for you to come up with all the extra ballots that, it's almost impossible. So they want to be within striking range. So this, just think about this, it's like a game of whack-a-mole or a chess across the whole country. All they have to do is find the swing states and the swing counties and then start calculating math and figuring out which ones are in striking distance, and then start
Mhm.
visiting and signing people up fraudulently to vote.
Mhm.
And so what they would do is they would fill people out to register to vote, even at a street corner. It didn't matter if you're, homeless or a drug dealer or somebody in the streets or sitting on the front yard of a barbecue party, or it doesn't matter. They would just get anybody and everybody. If you could fog a
Mhm.
mirror and you can scratch on this piece of paper, we need you to sign it. And even if they didn't complete the form, they would complete the form for them.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
here's the devil in the details. And this is really important. This is what most everybody missed. Like I said, it's not rocket science, but there's a little checkbox on the voter registration forms that says, I would like to apply for permanent absentee ballot status, please. And you check that little box. And right underneath there, it says, if your mailing address is different than your physical address, please enter that here. So they check the little box. I would like to become a permanent absentee ballot status, please.
Mhm.
And please send my mail-in ballot application to this address instead.
Mhm.
So that address ended up going back to safe houses and places where GBI Strategies had control of, and including extended stay hotels, where all their
Mhm.
employees were eagerly awaiting these absentee ballot applications.
So, how many mass batches of votes were going into these same addresses?
Oh,
Hundreds, would you say? Thousands?
sometimes, yes. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, but you're talking that's one way to spot it, right? If you looked at the voter rolls, and there's so many different games that they play here by now. I mean, they've got it down to a science. But forensic investigations, which we've conducted and I've been a part of, or had the honor to be a part of, you
Mhm.
start to discover these types of things. You start to discover abnormalities. You start to discover duplicates. Your name spelled 15 different ways, okay, with different types of initials or hyphens or things of that nature.
Mhm.
Your address slightly different, but you're the same person, okay? And you've got a different voter registration number for each one of these, okay?
Wow.
So there's a
Mhm.
lot of different ways that they do this. And then so when the clerk's offices or whoever they are in like in the state of Michigan, it's the clerk's office that receives these voter registration forms. And as soon as they see that little check mark that says, I want an absentee ballot, and they mail out the application. So the
Mhm.
employees at the safe houses and at the extended stays across the country in 27 states at least were eagerly awaiting these applications. They filled them out, okay?
Yes,
They mail them back in, and voila, what's next? Mail-in ballots.
exactly. Well, and the thing is, when you sign and you check the absentee ballot, is that forever and ever amen?
Essentially, I think eventually it drops off at maybe after a 10-year period or so. You might
But
have
even still, how many voting cycles? Two, three voting
at least two
cycles?
or three, right?
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Wow.
Okay. So that's one of the major ways that they stole the election. Gateway Pundit did the expose on that very thoroughly, and that is sitting in the FBI's office as we speak.
But where are we at right now in terms of election reform to that end, specifically, Jason?
Well, President Trump has issued an executive order that has
Mhm.
demanded that all 50 states start handing over their voter registration, their voter rolls so that they can be
Mhm.
inspected, not only by the Department of Justice, but by the Department of Homeland Security, and in support of DOJ, which is highly
Mhm.
qualified to be able to forensically scrub these voter registration rolls to find out whether or not there are ineligible people or illegal people or people that don't exist or people that are deceased or people that are duplicates. Okay.
Hmm.
And then to clean these voter rolls. However, the Constitution states that each state has the
I was
sovereign
going to
right to
say
conduct their elections as they see fit, and therefore they don't have to cooperate. Now, this is where President Trump can come in and say, well, if you don't cooperate, then we're going to withhold your federal funds and we're going to
exactly.
strangulate your state for a while until you start to come into line with, federally regulated elections. And
Hmm.
there are other things that he can do, which we haven't, we have yet to see come. And I do believe that there is more to come in regards for wrangling and getting 100% transparent election systems, because if we don't have 100% transparent elections, we'll never have our country back again.
Well, exactly right. Well, what do you project for the midterms in terms of how we move the ball down the field to where we can get closer to the? I don't know that we'll ever have the optimum because politics being what it is and the Democratic Party being who they are. I mean, it is a party of cheating. That's it's in their DNA.
They know
So
cheating better than anybody else.
yes, exactly. So how far? How what can we expect reasonably? For the midterms.
Reasonably, like I said, the only way we'll ever get our country back is if we get transparent elections back again. So I can expect, I think that the American people can and the public can expect that President Trump will issue additional executive orders that will put a tremendous amount of pressure on uh, each state and their attorneys generals and their secretaries of state
States,
to
right?
come clean and to provide transparent elections. Otherwise, there's going to be hell to pay, I believe, for those states.
Well, look at California. I mean, for the longest time, we've been battling. I think they've got something like, what, 3 million deceased people on their voting rolls,
At
and
least.
and that they've admitted to. But then they said, okay, well, we'll clean it up, and they said, well, we'll clean up about 50%. What's about 100%? If they're all dead, why are they on the rolls,
Why
right?
are they on the roll in the first place? And
Exactly.
again, and California won't turn over their voter rolls until President Trump forces them to do so. So we're
Hmm.
going to see how that plays out. But they have millions upon millions of people that were deceased, duplicates, alternative, adjusted
Right.
duplicates, and illegals, of course. And
Right.
on the California Secretary of State website, when you register to vote, and I believe you can go there right now and do it. You can go there, and there's a place where you are supposed to provide either a photo ID, right,
Hmm.
or or your last four of your Social Security number. Now, last four of Social Security numbers can be used over and over, hypothetically, but either way, there is another little checkbox underneath there on the California website that says I don't have either. So you can completely bypass having to provide any type of ID to register to vote in the state of California.
Unbelievable. Wow. Well, it's all about integrity. And I know that's what Gateway Pundit, Jason, yourself, our show, that's what we believe in. If we're going to get control of our country again and have it return to its original design by our founding fathers to be the Democratic Republic and the pride of the entire world. I mean, look at what Donald Trump has been able to do in a short period of time. How he's energized not only this country but the world for that matter. I mean, it's these foreign leaders are starting to discover, oh my God, I do have a backbone here.
They see that he's fighting against the deep state. The deep state is global. It's an
Hmm.
octopus. Okay.
Yeah.
It has tentacles everywhere, and they see that he is fighting and wrangling it. It tried to get a hold of him. I mean, he was a mark regarding Epstein.
Oh,
Epstein
no doubt.
was
I
a
was going to ask you about that. Go ahead.
yeah. Epstein was an operative, no question
Mhm.
about that. Okay, and not only an
And
operative.
when we say operative, I want people to understand CIA operative. He was a government backdoor operative, is what he was, right?
Well, we can't say bad words on this show, can we?
Uh,
So, you know, um, Epstein was working for multiple agencies. One of them was Israeli military intelligence. Okay, a lot of people might not know this, but you know, Robert Jeffrey Epstein met Ghislaine Maxwell from her father.
hmm.
Her father, Robert Maxwell. A lot of people don't realize this. Robert Maxwell, you've got to go look up Robert Maxwell to
Yeah.
even begin to understand the story of Jeffrey Epstein. You have to,
Mhm.
because Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, was Jeffrey Epstein's mentor.
Yes, I
Jeffrey,
was going to say.
Jeffrey
Yeah.
Epstein was Robert Maxwell's protege, and he was groomed to work with Robert Maxwell, who he
Hmm.
assigned to Robert Maxwell by his higher ups. Okay.
Hmm.
that work in Israeli intelligence and have direct connections to the Mossad. But also, none of this took place without the CIA's full knowledge. There's no way that Epstein Island operations could be taking place without our CIA knowing about it, or
Mhm.
at least some type of tacit approval or to turn a
Well,
blind eye to it.
yeah. Well, look what happened in Florida with that case in Florida. He all but got a hand slap, right?
Well, of course, because he was told, Acosta at the time, the Attorney General, right, at the
Hmm.
time, was told that he belongs to intelligence. He's above your pay grade. Leave it alone.
Hmm. Yes. So, list or no list? I mean, the Democrats are really hanging on to this list, and what Pam Bondi, uh, probably went over her skis on, and saying that she had a list there on her desk, and it got people riled up. It kind of caused a hit to the credibility of the Trump administration right now. Where do you think we're at with that? Because we've got about a minute left here, Jason. Go ahead.
Well, listen, I can understand why President Trump wants all of this just to go away. He wants to focus on things that actually matter. These people tried for many years to get President Trump, okay, but he never took the bait. He never went
Hmm.
to Epstein Island, okay?
Right.
Epstein Island is where his little operations were taking place. President Trump never went to Epstein Island, okay? Jeffrey Epstein tried to get close to President Trump, tried to bait him. Everybody that was of influence was in Jeffrey Epstein's book. And if everybody, remembers, the list is the book, is the black book. The black book has already come out. It's already
Yeah.
available. So all you have to do is go and look for it. There are parts, books that have been redacted, but there's one that's out there that's completely unredacted. So the bottom line is President Trump has said that there's many people in that book because everybody was a target. There's many
Right.
people in that book that didn't have anything to do with Epstein. And, their fear is that all these poor people's lives would be completely wrecked when everybody starts to try to tear them apart. We've even had death threats already by somebody saying that they're going to go and chase after these individuals, everybody that's in that book. Well, anybody that was of influence was a target of Jeffrey Epstein. That was the job. His job was to
Hmm.
get close to people of influence and to get at the center of the sphere of that influence to where
Hmm.
he could benefit from the gravity of that influence. That's why he was constantly inviting people that were celebrities into these parties to attract more people, attract more socialites, attract more young aspiring women that wanted to become models for Victoria's Secret, right?
Yeah.
Attract billionaires.
This is like another form of P. Diddy, a P. Diddy operation in a
P.
sense.
Diddy's the same thing. P. Diddy,
Right.
I'm telling you here and now, he's the same type of situation as Jeffrey Epstein, and that's why he's going to get off.
Jason Sullivan, contributor at large
Now,
for Gateway Pundit, founder and publisher of Unleashed.news. Final word, go ahead.
God bless you, sir. Thank you for being in the good fight.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Jason. Take care. God bless.
Bye bye.